Our story for today starts in the late 1910s in South America, where a naval arms race between Brazil, Argentina, and Chile is about to reach its bursting point. You see, thanks to infiltrated spies, the Chileans had gotten wind that the Brazilian Navy had ordered a ship so monstrously large and powerful they could not only overwhelm any single heavy unit they possessed, but also engage multiple targets at once, swatting them like mere flies. And in a heartbeat, a list of requirements was rapidly written up. The order went out and was picked up by the Tidmouth Shipbuilding Company, based on the island of Sodor. While not their first warship, it would be their first ever battleship, and the price reflected it. At £3 million, it was a dangerous gamble, but in the grand scheme of things, the sovereignty of Chilean waters was much, much more valuable than that. And so, on December 5th, 1911, the keel of CNS Ferdinand Magellan was laid. In early 1914, an economic recession loomed over the South American continent, and Chile soon found itself in an extremely awkward situation. Not only did they have no money left to finish the ship, but also because of the way the Tidmouth Shipbuilding Company had written the contract, if they were to cancel the construction of the ship, they'd end up paying twice the initial price. And so, in an attempt to cut their losses, the whole of the battleship was put up for sale. However, it wasn't long until a client stepped forward. It would be none other than the British Royal Navy, represented by the First Lord of the Admiralty, Sir Winston Churchill, and he had a very interesting proposal for them. Not only would Britain pay the totality of the price for the ship, but they would also give an extra £2 million to have the ship be rented by the Royal Navy for a period of 5 years. Of course, the Chileans were more than pleased with that, and soon arrangements were made for the official handover of the ship to happen in the very city it would be built in. Subsequently, the news reached the mayor of Tidmouth, who, more than anyone else, understood the implications of receiving both the First Sea Lord and the Chilean Minister of Foreign Affairs in his town. Could lead to, great opportunities for himself. If handled correctly, this could leave him in the good graces of many people, and maybe even a promotion, but for now his efforts were concentrated towards organising a reception party in the city's main station. The two special guests would be brought all the way from London by a special train, pulled by Sudbury engines, of course, and soon the day of the reception came. It was a brilliant success, and to say the First Sea Lord was impressed by the effectiveness and strength of the engines would be an understatement. Later that evening, during the ceremonial dinner held at the mayor's house, Churchill had a lengthy conversation regarding Sodor's railways with the mayor, but soon the question about the ship's new name arose. Sir, you must understand that the Southern people pride themselves on their craft, and I feel it would be most unfortunate if the ship didn't bear a Southern name. The First Sea Lord stirred his glass of wine knowingly. Well, do not fear. I understand your concerns. I was thinking of naming the ship after Tidmouth itself. However, it would go against Royal Navy tradition, and, we can't simply do that. The mayor gulped, but soon responded, well, perhaps we could name it after one of our old kings. Churchill listened. He was intrigued. Godred, more specifically. Now, of course, this is hoping it doesn't upset His Majesty. The First Sea Lord smiled knowingly. Well, do not worry. I'm sure His Majesty would be more than delighted to have such a magnificent ship bear the name of a hero. Godred it is, then. And so, Godred would now become the 30th battleship of the Royal Navy. Now, it goes without saying that the ship had to be slightly modified to fit the Royal Navy's needs, and those modifications resulted in him having an irregular set of 3 thin funnels, unlike the more common 2 funnels. But regardless, with his hull finished in record time and fitting out work taking place shortly after, Godred would find himself being commissioned on the eve of the First World War, and he'd find himself in the thick of it. In the spring of 1916, Godred was stationed in Gibraltar. He regularly escorted convoys up to England, passing around Ireland to try and avoid the submarine-infested waters of the English Channel. And on one of these voyages, he would be accompanied by one of his half-brothers, Revenge. Say, Godred, I don't want to jinx anything, but do you think the war will actually be over by the time Christmas rolls around? Godred answered him with a big smile. Well, we'll have to wait and see, but so far we seem to have the Huns under control, and the Admiralty says they haven't made a single attempt at leaving port in the past few months. They certainly aren't trying their luck at becoming the next Spanish Armada now, are they? Revenge chuckled, and right as he was about to reply, they were cut off by... The two vessels quickly trained to starboard, and we need to find one of the larger freighters in the formation had stopped dead in its tracks.
I think I struck a mine.
The freighter's bow pointed towards the depths of the oceans.
I'm taking out water!
Checking quickly, Godred's crew attached ropes to him in the freighter. However, now the convoy was faced with a problem. Well, that's the best we can do. If I go over 10 knots, I doubt that seal is going to last. Don't worry, Godred. I'm sure the Admiralty will understand if we're... No, Revenge. This one is going through without me. Revenge hated the idea of leaving Godred behind, but he would be no use arguing. Godred wouldn't compromise the safety of his missions no matter what. And so the two ships parted ways, leaving Godred to brave the Celtic Sea with a half-sunk freighter strapped to his side. But after a short eternity, they finally reached an island just off the mainland. Now, the harbour was too shallow for Godred, so he had to stay the night outside of the small port. The cold wind circled around him as the waves slowly rocked him to sleep, and soon he was awoken by a buzzing noise. At first he thought it to be a bug flying next to him, but then he felt the wake of something moving in the water. He opened his eyes and saw 3 submarines heading for the harbour. In a rush of adrenaline, all his engines came to life at once and propelled him with a jerk towards the 2 submarines trailing behind the first one, and before he was even fully awake... Godred lay dazed and surprised. He had successfully managed to sink the 2 submarines. However, the explosion of the first submarine had sent the second one down and under his keel. And, to be honest, no battleship was ever made to handle that type of damage. Godred had almost accepted his fate, but then he saw the 3rd submarine was still headed towards the harbour. And as Godred slipped beneath the waves, he had a front row seat to a slaughter of unspeakable horror. After the war, most ships who had sank in shallow waters were lifted and scrapped, but not Godred. His wreck settled in an awkward spot that was hard to reach, and so he was left there. Day after day, month after month, year after year, Godred slowly rotted away, begging for death, but it never came. Revenge was out patrolling the channel with Queen Elizabeth. He hated working with her. He was longing for port.
It's so undignified. You'd think the most powerful fleet in the world would have better taste in warship.
Warship on the horizon! This is HMS Revenge. Identify yourself immediately. We will not refrain from open... Right as it was about to continue, the battleship was hit with an overpowering feeling of dread. No. It can't be. Godred! Godred! Godred, please! In his frenzy, Revenge had left Elizabeth behind. She barely catched up to him.
Revenge, calm down.
But the 3 funnels!
That wasn't Godred. That looked like a cruiser. An appetizing target. Want to do the honors?
Let's go home, Elizabeth. We've clocked our hours anyway.
Are you sure you don't want to go and investigate?
I'm sure. The rumours have it Churchill wants to create a brand new branch of the armed forces. No, that's just preposterous, sir. Good evening, gentlemen. Good evening, sir. Good evening to you too. Now, as you may know, I've recently visited the island of Sodor, and during that visit I've had a realization. If Britain is to stay ahead, we must realise and harness the possibilities railways could offer us.